To welcome Casey's Outdoor Solutions as a sponsor to our podcast. Casey's is a premier garden center and gift shop located in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Casey's offers a wide selection of plants, landscaping materials, home and garden decor, and gifts for every occasion. Casey's is committed to providing exceptional service, a unique shopping experience, and value to every customer. Stop in and see what makes Casey's so unique. Located at 21481 State Line Road, Lawrenceburg, Indiana, or call 812-537-3800. Let Casey's help you add beauty to your home. Welcome to Strong Dads. Hey, this is Merle Hutchinson and Kyle Crawford coming to you with another great show. What's up, Kyle?
Oh, not much. How are you doing?
I'm good.
I'm good. I'm good. How, you look a little tired today. I saw you yawning.
Old, man.
You wiping the boogers out of your eyes.
That birthday came a few weeks ago, and I'm still recovering from it. It's tough getting old.
Well, I agree. It is.
It is, yeah.
In my ripe old 30. I'm almost 33 now, Merle. My birthday's coming up.
33. Let's see. I quit wearing diapers at 34.
I'm getting ready to turn biblical.
Are you? You're coming into your ministry now, aren't you? Actually, you're already in your ministry. You're getting ready to come to the end of your ministry, if that's the case.
Anyways, how you doing today?
I'm good. Hey, we got 4th of July coming up.
That's right.
So big weekend here. I know you love this weekend at work, don't you? Tell people what happens in the world of a fireman on 4th of July weekend.
Well, this I'm going to say it on the show. This is hell night for us. This is a bad night for us in the city of Dayton where I worked, and I actually have to work this year. I'm working Sunday on July 4th, and it is just utter mayhem.
People just get stupid, don't they?
They do. Like a few years ago, they were burning an entire street. Like they caught the street on fire. I didn't know that was possible until I started working.
Would they use like gas or
oil? They burn gazebos, and the one guy tried to throw a mortar out his car, and he forgot his windows down, so he threw the mortar. Blows up his car.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's crazy there, but it's fun. It's lots of fun.
Oh yeah, you just love it. So if there's like fire like that going on and everybody's on the street acting crazy, as a fireman, do you guys try to stop the starting of fires, or you just let them just go do their thing, and then when they're done, then you go out and put the fires out?
It's a balancing act because they shoot fireworks at us.
I know, yeah.
It's crazy. And then this is my public service announcement, the number one job of a firefighter is prevention. So don't play with fireworks. That's a public service announcement. I love fighting fire. So if you do happen to play with fireworks and you set a house on fire, I will gladly
call Kyle.
I will gladly come and put it out.
Oh, that's good. All right. So, yeah, we are going to talk about the 4th of July. We're going to have some fun. We've done similar topics to this, but I think it's always a good topic to talk because we're going to actually transfer a little bit of the talk today, not to just our strong dads, but how to help your kids with what I'm not going to talk about as freedom. I'm going to talk about independence.
Ooh.
Independence. Right. Because
it is Independence Day.
It is Independence Day, and really what independence meant and still means, because one of the things that we recognize with our kids is as they're growing up, they are always seeking independence.
Yeah.
Okay. I can do it myself. I don't need you.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And so it is the nature of all of us, and there's a reason for that. God gave us that nature. Okay. Yep. And so we're going to talk about how do I actually do that so that it works well for everybody that's involved. And sometimes it even doesn't work well at a national level. Right. Yep. And so that's why you have these revolutions and breakaways. But we're going to talk about how we do it in our home, how us dads, as strong dads, do this and do it so that our kids can be successful someday.
Yep. So this show is going to be difficult at times, I think, Merle, as we found out, just kind of shooting back and forth on what we hope, what we want this show to come across to you guys. We've said this many times. This is not a political podcast. We don't want to turn into that. Yeah. I might struggle a little bit with this one. I might struggle with the idea of independence when it comes to us as men, when we talk about a little bit, when we incorporate the government into that a little bit. This might be a struggle for me a little bit.
Well, yeah, because when you talk about on a large level the the roadblock, the impediment to independence is our government.
Yep.
But there are ways around that. And again, I'm talking a little bit pie in the sky, like in a perfect world,
Sure.
but we don't live in a perfect world. So there's going to be some conversation that sometimes the government, there is a purpose there, but it can drive us crazy. And so
You don't say.
You don't say. So we're gonna talk about that a little bit. So let me ask you. So what does when you were a kid? What does independence? What did it mean to you? Like when you were a teenager, did you like I can do it myself? That kind of thing. What kind of kid were you when it came to freedom?
The first thing that I thought about when it came to like my independence, I remember the first time I got to get gas and use my own money, and I was like, heck yes, this is awesome. Like, I don't have to ask mom and dad for money. I'm like, I earned this money. I get to spend this money. And now I hate it. Like, golly, I hate getting gas, right? But at the time, it was the cool thing, right?
Yeah.
I remember buying my first car and thinking like, holy cow, I got to buy the car I wanted to. And again, my parents, they graciously let me drive one of their cars when I was learning how to drive. But I remember buying my first car, putting gas in it from the money that I earned.
Yeah.
Just having that sense of like, oh yes, I did this, right? And I think it goes to that exact idea of just independence. Like, I didn't have to rely on my mom and dad as much as my parents have done for me, and as grateful as I am that they were there for that. But it is so nice to be like, I got this. You kind of get the broad shoulders a little bit like, what's up, girls? I got this, right? And I remember thinking like that was the coolest thing. I get to put my gas from the money that I made.
Yeah. That's that. That whole money thing, that's what comes to my mind. Like, when we were really little, I remember going into the store and my mom saying, here's a dime or a quarter or whatever it was. Back in those days, I could buy you a candy bar. And she'd say, here's what you can spend. But me and my buddies actually started, I was probably 5th or 6th grade. And back then, we'd ride our bikes everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay. And we lived about a mile away from a delicatessen. We used to call it the deli, okay? And we were permitted to ride our bikes there.
Sure.
Right? And so 5th and 6th grade, we were riding our bikes. And so me and my buddies started collecting our own change. We had our own change drawers.
Okay.
And so all we had to do is say, Mom, we're going up to the deli.
Okay.
And as long as she said yes,
game on,
baby. I was pulling out my own money and buying just total trash food, candy, and we would sit up at the deli on a summer day and just pop down bubble gum and everything else. And the freedom of that felt like, man, we have arrived. We are so cool as we'd hop on our bikes with our banana seats and our monkey handlebars and our sissy bar in the back. Like, we have arrived. So, I'm on the same line with you with that whole freedom from the money side. That was cool. Yeah. That was independence.
I like it. We're going to get into the show. Before we do, want to thank our sponsor real quick. Thanks so much for Kramer's Beer House for coming alongside of us down on Route 128. I know that their patio, I'm sure, is busy right now, and the weather's been really nice. So go down there, check them out. We really do appreciate Kramer's Beer House for coming alongside of us.
Absolutely. Also want to thank the Casey Outdoor Solution guys who have just continued to come alongside of Strong Dads and promote what we do. And so we want to thank Casey and all their work out there and his whole crew. Just continue to, for any of your landscaping needs or any gifts or any home decor, go down and check out Casey's down off of State Line Road in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. All right. So I wanted to move away from the word freedom today, because sometimes when we talk about 4th of July, we throw the word around. We're in a free country. This is all about freedom. And I don't know, like, it just seems like it's overused. And I don't even really know what freedom is, right? And so the idea, when you actually think about freedom, the 4th of July was actually called Independence Day.
Yeah.
And I liked the term independence much better, because independence, if you just look up the definition of being independent, it just means free from outside control. So you're not dependent on somebody else and their authority, all right? And so that's kind of when you think about Independence Day, as our country was being formed, we were breaking away from the mother country, breaking away from England, because their outside control was oppressive and didn't seem fair in a lot of different ways. And so finally they were like, you know what, we don't need this sort of authority. We want to be our own authority. Right.
And I like the idea of talking about independence versus the idea of freedom. And sometimes they get interchanged, and you can kind of, put them in whatever context you're talking about. But I also think, like, truly our freedom comes from Christ.
Right.
And so when we are talking, nothing comes above, our Creator. And to me, that's where that true freedom really comes in. Yes, no one is truly free. But when we talk about in reference to our freedom in Christ, I think that's when we truly get the idea of what freedom really looks like.
Right.
Where here in America, we have independence. And so I think that's hopefully what this show will kind of discuss.
Yeah. As you said, like, in Scripture, it makes it very clear that none of us are really free. We are all, and the phrase actually sometimes, you are all slaves. We're slaves to something. You're slave to the lender. You're slave to debt. You're slave to food. You're slave to lust or sex. Yeah. That whatever owns you or whatever preoccupies you, that can get a grip on you, and you become trapped or bound. It's like being handcuffed. And so all of us have a level of, even when I think of freedom, the idea that I can't just pick up and move because I have debt, I have responsibilities. So even though I think I'm free, there's a difference, because I'm not free in the sense of, man, I just got things I got to stick around and be responsible for.
Right.
Okay. So the idea here is independence, and independent from a greater authority. All right. And so, when you hear the Declaration of Independence and it's talk about all of us have unalienable rights, okay, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Unalienable means that you can't alienate it or separate it from you. In other words, God, when you were born, God gave you the right to have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You can't separate that.
Right.
But when other authorities come in, they can take away your right to life. They can take away your liberties. They can take away your pursuit of happiness. Like, you're stuck. Okay? And so the whole Declaration of Independence was not written to give us rights. It was written to keep the government from taking what is already yours.
Yes.
And a lot of people really, they lose sight of that,
Yes,
because we've been so long in our country now in terms of having a government and thinking of them as big brother, right? Yep. That we think that they are the ones who give us rights. And God gave us our rights. Yeah. Okay, so the only authority that we actually have is, as you mentioned before, is Jesus Christ, is the Creator, right? Yep. That's our only authority. After that, the best we have is a referee.
Yeah.
Okay, but we have to keep that in mind. So as we walk through this, we're going to talk about, okay, so what does all this mean, like, as I'm trying to be a dad and trying to teach my kids about this? Because if we can teach our kids better about what this independence is and how to get it and then maintain it, we can do a much better job at keeping it throughout our country.
Right.
If we continue to let our kids just sort of be taken care of, then they will slowly, and as we have recognized in this country, the whole idea of socialism, the whole idea of people coming in and saying, well, I'm going to tell you how to spend your money or your time or your freedom. I will tell you. We need to build strong kids that know, I'm going to determine what I want to do with this.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's where the idea, like, teaching our kids, especially, with the conversation of independence coming with the 4th of July, like, we need to instill and ingrain principles of ownership and principles of personal responsibilities. So when we talk to our kids and we're teaching them about the idea of being independent, like we have to realize that if we don't instill and ingrain these core beliefs that we definitely here at Strong Dads believe in, like what we're doing is we are allowing that government entity or whatever entity to take away to basically they have to step in at that point.
Right.
We've given them no choice because we've gone astray to what we should be doing. We've no longer taken ownership. We were talking before the show. One of the reasons we talk about and kind of the idea of Strong Dads what was the absence of dad in the home, and what has happened is the dad has been replaced by a government entity.
Yeah.
And the government will never ever be the father figure that our kids need. No. Ever. The only father figure that our kids are going to need is a male figure, an actual person being in that home, being a strong dad, a strong man who's carrying biblical beliefs that are instilling certain behaviors in our kids, that therefore they grow up, they have kids, and it's that generational effect.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's dead on kind of where we want to go in terms of helping you dads out there understand, even at the youngest of ages. So when we start communicating with our kids, I want to start to help them understand what it means to be on the path to independence. Okay. And it is a path. I mean, this is not something that all of a sudden one day, and this is where teenagers get mixed up. All of a sudden one day they wake up and they want to be independent. Yeah. And you're like, oh, no, wait a minute, dude. You have work to do before you just arrive at independence. So let's take and walk through some conversation here and some steps that you can use in your own home. And the first one really is understanding what we said from the very beginning, and that is there is only one authority over you. There is only one authority, and that is God. And you as a dad, you have to teach this to your kids. Like sometimes we talk about, with my kids, you need to do this because I said so, right? And that's a whole nother discussion. Yeah. There's a level of truth to that, but there's also the idea of, well, who said that you could say so?
Sure.
And who gave you the authority, in other words? And so in God's word, we want to talk about, like when I teach my kids, I want them to know what our value system is. And so from the very get-go, we've got to be teaching our kids who God is, why we follow God, why our whole house follows God, and what values He imparts on us. These are these inalienable rights. These are, all of these things about honoring your parents and about the Ten Commandments, all of these things, why we do them. And we know we do them because they work well in society.
Yeah, for sure. And that, again, not that we want to necessarily talk about that freedom when it comes to us and our country, but man, when we start talking about God and him giving us our rights and our abilities and those unalienable rights that we're talking about, man, when we talk about that, that's where it is so for me. Like if I were to look at a law that's put in front of me or a God's law, like I want to follow God's law. Like I strive, and I feel like God's laws are so that they hold us to a higher standard. That and again, this isn't a perfect world. Not everyone is following God the way we strive to, right?
Right.
But I think that if we start to teach our kids those standards and those morals and ethics when it comes to who God is and what He can do for your life, man, we're going to raise up generations that are going to they're going to need less government. They're going to need less of an entity to rule over them and to be the referee that you were talking about before.
Right.
When we start ingraining those biblical behaviors with our kids, man, they're not going to need. In a grand scheme, the government's not going anywhere. Like as much as, as
much as you'd like for
as
it
much
to.
as I like it, but like if we ingrain certain biblical beliefs with our kids, man, we shrink the idea of someone pointing that finger, that big brother idea, pointing their finger and saying, you have to do this now, do this the way I want you to, when we teach those biblical beliefs.
Well, to give an example of how you talk about God's law needs to supersede human law, that whole idea of like, look at divorce. God does not want us to divorce, okay? Yeah. And He forbids divorce. And then He gives certain criteria as to where it might be permissible. But our government doesn't forbid divorce. Okay. And I'm okay that it doesn't. Okay. Because that would be another intrusion. Okay. But if I teach my kids, that would be another place where they overstep their bounds. But it's very likely you could get government to step up if people don't honor God's law on this, his rule. And it's God's rule because it works well. And when we don't do it well, it hurts people. Okay. And so we want, and it actually goes the other way too. God sometimes is silent on certain things, and the government steps in and makes a law. And that's kind of why we get frustrated. Like, oh, here they are again, making up new rules. Yeah. All right, stuff that we think is silly or petty, or stuff that we think, oh, I should just be able to take care of this on my own. Okay,
right.
So God's law is the one that I want my kids to know from the very get-go, and this is the value system from a very get-go that I want my kids to have. And ultimately, when they become teenagers and they start questioning me, it won't be because I said so. It will be because a much greater authority than me said so. So when they start to question me, Dad, why can't I do this? Well, I'm going to tell you, I created the structure in this house based off of God's word. So if you want to argue with somebody, go argue with God. Yeah. I'm trying to honor God in this, not myself.
Well, and I'll ask this question to you, Merle. Obviously my girls are much younger than your two older boys. And that idea of just do it because I say so comes up all the time. Right. I have an 8 and a 6-year-old. So is anyone out there who is in that general area of parenting, like what would you what would be a suggestion or a counsel that you could give a dad like me who is raising up girls who are like, why do I have to do this, Mom or Daddy? And I do feel like Jenny and I, we use the Word of God and what we know to be true based off of biblical beliefs. But like, what would you whatever the case may be, as something as small as taking the trash out, and obviously right. You could get into the idea of building discipline and character in that sense. But what would you, if you and I were in a session, if I came to you and be like, my kids just constantly are always on me like, why do I got to do this? And I constantly tell them, well, because Mom and Daddy say so. Like, what would be your guidance or your advice when it comes to that?
Yeah. Well, first off, us as parents, we make the mistake that our kids have to understand every single thing we ask them to do. And the mistake about that is your kid has a very different perspective and value system than you do. We've talked about this in other shows. This is not saying anything bad or mean about your kid, but your kid is wired by survival instincts. Your kid is wired to take care of themselves and their desires first.
Yeah.
Okay. And we call that selfishness. And so the idea that I ask my kid to take out the garbage, that to them is an intrusion on what they want to do, because that TV is really exciting for them to sit down and watch right now. Okay.
Right.
But I'm trying to teach them from the idea of, well, listen, I need you to take the garbage out because you're actually functioning for the good of this family, to get this whole family to run smoothly. When they kick back at that, I'm going to explain it one time.
Sure.
Okay, so that simple explanation I just gave, I'm not going to dummy them down. I'm not going to say, you wouldn't understand, just shut up and do it. No, I don't. We don't disrespect our kids that way. So I am going to explain it. Listen, I need you to do this because it helps us run the house, okay? At that point, I'm not going to entertain the conversation anymore, okay? And until I start to notice my kids, you'll notice your kids going through different developmental readiness stages. Okay, so you can explain something to them when they're 6 and they just don't get it at all. And then all of a sudden when they're 8, you can explain really the same thing. And they start to go, oh, I'm starting to see why that works that way. And so sometimes if you just keep following this up, we often say your kids won't understand until they have kids of their own, right? And so I actually do see that now with my older boys who have their own kids running around.
Sure.
And I see them implementing different rules or whatever structure in their house. And I just kind of laugh because I think it's funny, and I don't ever diminish what they're doing, but I laugh because their kids are like, I don't want to. I don't want to. And it's like, listen, this is why we do this, but I'm not going to beat the dead horse.
Yep.
Your job is not to convince your kids that you're right. That's not your job. Your job is to get your kids to understand what you value. What is important to you? And you're going to protect what is important to you. Just think of it like this. God's way, I always say this when I'm working with people, the reason why I love God's word is because it confuses me and frustrates me because I don't understand it.
Right.
Like we mentioned before, the whole idea of I'm supposed to love my enemies. Well, there's one right there I'm going to kick out the door. There's no way, But then I'm trying to grow. I'm trying to mature and go, oh, okay. Now I see the reason why I need to work on loving my enemies because we were enemies of Christ. We are the ones who crucified him.
Yeah.
And he still loved us. He still gave his all. He gave his life for us. And so that whole idea is like, I'm just starting to get the maturity to understand that. So don't expect that your kids are always going to get it.
Right. Well, and as you were talking about, that example of taking the trash out and explaining, building up your family, like I started thinking just because of my competitive nature, like those like maybe cliche, like whatever, the basketball movies where the coach comes in and they have this off the wall way of instructing this team, right? And the team rebels initially and the coach essentially explains why we're doing what we're doing. Just buy into this, right? The whole idea of buy into what I'm trying to give you guys. And by the end, the team is coherent and are functioning well. And then it like clicks and the kids get it. Like the kids on the basketball team, they're like, that's why coach had us do that.
Right.
And I think I was kind of hearing you speak, in that idea that, it may be when our kids are having kids and then they're like, oh, that's why mommy and daddy had me do whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that's the hope, right? I think that's the hope when we're teaching our kids and teaching them things that we want to ingrain in them, that idea that independence isn't there because they're being told by us, but the hope is that eventually they buy into the coherence of the house and what mommy and daddy are trying to achieve, and then from that from getting told what to do, eventually there's a little bit of independence where they're just going out and doing it, and then mommy and daddy kind of slowly back away from what they're, instead of every day, hey, do this because you need to. Eventually the hope is that the kids kind of just start showing initiative and going out and doing it. And then from that's where a little bit of that independence, mom and daddy kind of push them and be like, here, you're good. You can go do this now. I hope that made sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So then independence then starts to become real when your kids see that they handle it well.
Yeah.
And part of that is them handling the consequences when they don't handle it well.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I think back about the times from our standpoint, we look at the Revolutionary War as a time when finally, they got finished with the war and yes, we're finally free. We're on easy street. And that's just not the truth.
Yeah.
Once that war was over and there was a separation from England, it wasn't like life was sweet and easy. I mean, life was still really hard because there were certain things being provided through trade and stuff like that now weren't going to be provided. And so now you're like, okay, well, we broke free from the mother country. Now we got to figure it out on our own.
Yeah.
And so independence takes a maturing, and your kids are going to expect that you're going to grant this. And, you have to age appropriately, let them have some of that, let them have some of that independence, and let them fail. Do not save them, all right? Because this is where personal responsibility, and that's really kind of where all this Independence Day comes down to. The whole idea of if this country was going to make it, it was because we were going to be personally responsible for the welfare and success of this country or the failures of this country. All right. And that still holds true today, that if this country fails, it will fail based off of personal irresponsibility.
Yeah.
And at the home level, even at the home level. And so if I want my kid to truly understand what Independence Day is about, this all feeds back down to what responsibility are you going to implement personally so that I don't have to implement anything on you. So I don't have to carry your load. And your kids knowing that, listen, you fail, you're paying the full price. Yep. Whatever that is, okay? You succeed, you reap the benefits of it. And that freedom then is something you go, oh man, like I don't want to lose this. I don't want to lose this. I want to protect this because I don't want the referee to be in my business any more than I need him to be.
Yes.
You get that.
I got the reference. That was good. Yeah, I think the personal responsibility, I hope that's something, when we talk about independence, is something that is brought up. Hopefully, at the 4th of July coming, really quickly here, I hope that those conversations are happening. I hope your kids are asking about what Independence Day means for us as Americans, for us in our homes, for us as strong dads. Like, we need to, those personal responsibilities, I think is maybe outside of who Jesus is in our life, is one of the most important things we can teach our kids, because as we talk all the time, it sets our kids up for success for generations to come when we're able to teach those personal responsibilities. Because just like you were saying, Merle, like, I do not want that the lack of personal responsibility to be the reason why there's an overreach of an entity coming into my life, because in a lot of ways we are our own worst enemies when it comes to the government having to step in, or what the government deems they have to step in. Like, the fact that we don't take personal responsibility is why that government entity is there. That's why they're reaching in there.
Yeah, it's absolutely. I mean, if you tread on me long enough and it's upsetting to me, and I need an authority, I'm glad I have an authority to call. Okay. But I'd rather not even have to call an authority. Yeah. I'd rather be able that you and I could handle it between us, and we both respected each other enough that we would be responsible to each other. Okay. I think of censorship and the whole idea of I'm against censorship. I don't want this total blanket censorship. We should be able to have that freedom of speech. With that being said, we have to have the responsibility of our speech. And so when people go and they defame other people, and they're nasty and intruding into other people's lives, they are inviting the hand of government to come in and play censor. And so if you don't want to be censored, be responsible with what your words are doing. If you don't want to lose freedom, be responsible with it. And that's a hard thing to do, because responsibility takes work. Like, you mean I got to carry my load with this? You mean I have to kind of watch out for my brother? Meaning, like, you and I were joking before at the beginning of the show, like, what does it mean to be responsible for you? It means, if I'm on my deck and I've got my music cranked up, and I'm just jamming away, oh man, I can see 70s classic rock right now. And you're out there trying to have some peace and quiet on a nice sunny day, and you're trying to take a nap. And the more I see you over there getting irritated at me, I don't respond to it. Instead, maybe I do respond with even turning it up louder, because that's what I might do to you. And so now I am not being responsible, not just for my actions, but how it's impacting you.
Yep.
And so the next thing you know, I have a sound ordinance where, Kyle, you can call and say, the idiot next to me is blaring music. Yep. Right? We wouldn't need that if I were responsible from the get-go.
Or if you did what we held ourselves to the biblical sense. God clearly tells us to love our neighbors, and that wasn't just a cliche. He wrote that for whatever that minute scenario that you just talked about. Like, if we actually truly loved our neighbors, and we realize, all right, like, it's 10 o'clock, I probably turn my turn my music down because I want my neighbor to not have to call the cops on me, right? And if we actually hold ourselves to biblical beliefs, like, again, it's that's a very baseline thing that happened, but it's still true. Like, God calls us to love our neighbors, love people, like, right. and if we're not doing that, then yes, there's going to be consequences for those actions. Just going back to that personal responsibility.
Yeah. So we're going to wrap things up at the end of the day here of Independence Day. As you strong dads are out there trying to lead your family and to grow your kids, teach them all about independence, and through that you use personal responsibility. Okay, let your kids take some from freedom and use it, and then let them know how they can nurture it so that it continues to be a win. But if it doesn't, that they're going to pay the price for that. And that's not being mean or punishing or anything like that. That's like, okay, here's what you need to learn. If you're going to have this independence, here's how you have to carry yourself.
I love it. Awesome. Happy 4th of July to all you guys out there. I really do appreciate you guys listening to us, staying tuned every week. We're putting shows out. Hopefully it's meaningful shows. Hopefully it's starting good, meaningful conversations for you in your home, with you and your wife and your kids. Really do appreciate Casey's Outdoor Solutions and Crimer's Beer House for coming alongside of us. Go check those two places out. Let them know that we sent you guys down there. Reach out to Rock Solid Families. I know Merle and Linda would love to talk to you guys. If you have questions, if you have suggestions on different shows, we would love to hear it. Email Merle. You can reach him at hutch@rocksolidfamilies.org. Since I still don't have an email, you got to give me an email.
No,
I need my independence
I don't
from you.
think you've expressed the personal responsibility well enough to be
I need my independence from you, Merle. I need my own email.
It'll be a long, cold day, son, before you know. So, hey, we appreciate you guys. We have a good time here. Give us a 5-star rating. Share our shows. Talk us up so that we can hopefully be a positive influence out there to other dads and their families. So let's go out there and be some strong dads.
I like it. Hey, this is Kyle Crawford from Strong Dads. Strong Dads Podcast would love to thank the Crimer's Beer House for coming alongside of us. The Crimer's Beer House was started in 1982 by the Crimer family, and since that time, they have definitely become a Cincinnati favorite. So if you're looking for an incredible meal in an incredible setting, definitely go down to Route 128 and check out the Crimer's Beer House.